not sure if I should keep this book here while I'm filming or not. Let's see. Let's not scare anybody too much. Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about all the manga I read in July. I haven't done a single month wrap up in a while, but this month I read enough different series that I felt it justified its own video, so let's go ahead and get started. So this first one is a series that I talked about a little bit briefly, but I did want to discuss it a little bit more, and this is Shonen Note. So in July, I finished the series with volumes 6, 7, and 8. This series follows Utica. He is a 12-year-old boy, and he really loves to sing, and he has the soprano voice, which is very rare for boys. Because he loves to sing so much, he decides to join the school choir. The only problem is the inevitability of his voice changing. He is approaching puberty, and he knows that he's not going to be able to sing like this forever. So that's already a pretty big issue to focus on in the series. But in the beginning, we also discussed the idea of him being able to use his talent for himself. Because he is so talented and his voice is so rare, there are many people who want to use his talent, not necessarily for selfish reasons, but they're obviously the school choir wants him to be in their choir because that will help their choir grow and be better and do better in competitions, but also there's the opera who really wants to use his voice in their performances. So Utica has to figure out what he wants to do, if he can do them both. He's also only 12 years old, so doing both of those things at the same time would kind of be a lot for him. And he's left wondering what he's even singing for and what his singing means to him. Additionally, to add another layer to this, we also follow this character here. His name is Vladimir. He is another 12-year-old boy who is a very good soprano singer. He has some level of fame to his name, actually, so he does concerts and stuff. But just like Utica, he too is facing the looming end of not only his soprano voice, but his career and the thing he's done since he was very young. He is still very young, but a very big majority of his life has been focused on soprano singing, and he's not sure how much longer he's going to be able to do that. So obviously, since this manga focuses so heavily on your identity changing and puberty, and because I've read this author's other works that also deal with LGBT topics, I was wondering if this manga was going to explore those issues or not, and it definitely did, but not with the characters I was expecting. It's not a huge focus on the story at all, but I did enjoy reading those moments. It added another layer to the story. And as if this wasn't enough angst to deal with, in the background of all this, the town that they're living in is being threatened with the development of like this waste disposal facility. In the beginning, you just kind of see like little protests about it, but it becomes a real conflict towards the end of the series, and it just reflects the turmoil these kids are facing with puberty and their lives. Their inner turmoil is then mirrored in their outer turmoil in the city and their changing landscape. So I think this is a really great coming-of-age, emotional music drama manga. It explores the different relationships people might have with music. They're not all positive. Some of the characters are really conflicted with if they even want to sing or do music at all. I think the art does a fantastic job at not only being beautiful, but also reflecting the emotions of the characters. We have a lot of celestial imagery and nature imagery that's not just beautiful, but also provides metaphor for the characters and their relationships. So I think if you're looking for a coming-of-age story that deals with these topics, this one is highly recommended for me, and it's pretty short at only 8 volumes. So after this, I started reading some of the series that my very scary Wheel of Death TBR thing decided that I was going to read. When I finished that video, I figured, oh, these series aren't too bad. Like, it's not a huge amount. It's perfectly doable in 3 months. Little did I know that the series it was picking for me were just horrible. So at this point, I have read 2 series. One of them I dropped. The first one was Beck. I read 3 volumes of this, and that was 3 volumes too many. I don't even want to talk about this too much, but basically it's about this kid. He's very much a loser. In fact, let me read the description the manga gives for this character. This series is on Kindle Unlimited. I'm just reading the first couple sentences from the description that's on Kindle Unlimited for the series. So it says, 14-year-old Yukio Tanaka is one heck of a boring guy. He has no hobbies, a weak taste in music, and only a small vestige of a personality. So when the synopsis of the manga itself describes the main character in that way, why would I want to be reading that? He's 14 years old, so he wasn't the main issue I had with the series, although I simply don't care if he succeeds at learning the guitar, because he's very annoying and not easy to root for, which is a problem in a coming of age music manga. I guess I didn't give a synopsis. Basically, this kid, he's a loser. He meets this other kid who's barely older than him. The other kid is 16, our main character is 14, and basically becomes this kind of apprentice to this kid who is a rock star. So our main character wants to learn the guitar because, I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention because this was so horrible to read. There's very much a lot of like product of its time, fan service. The main female character is in the swim club, and the only reason I think she's in the swim club is so the author can draw her in a swimming suit. And she's also like 14 or 15. Like I said, I only read 3 volumes of it, and the number of panels of her just in a swimsuit, just for no reason, ridiculous. I thought I was going to be reading a manga about rock music and a kid learning to play the guitar, which I'm sure eventually it gets better, okay? You don't have to go in the comments and tell me how it's gonna get better. I simply don't care. I have not given a volume of manga a 1 star in a long time, I don't think. The first volume I gave 2 stars, and the next one I gave 1 star. So I can't read any more of this. It was just a terrible reading experience. I'm not even sure this review is eloquent, but I don't want to put any more brain power into thinking about this manga. So then I decided to read something different, and I thought, surely the TBR wheel can't choose something else that is just awful either, right? But it did. The next manga I read was the Ichinose Family's Deadly Sins. So there are 6 volumes of this. It's all on the Shonen Jump app. I read it all in 1 day, which is the only positive thing I can say about this series. The synopsis of this one is actually interesting. So it follows this kid. He wakes up in a hospital bed. Supposedly he has been in some sort of accident with his family, and he and the rest of his family have no memory. But as the title would suggest, all these family members have secrets, and throughout the manga, you're supposed to learn about the different secrets that each of the family members are hiding, which I thought that's what the story was going to be about, and it kind of is, but mostly it's just like plot twists just to be ridiculous, just going in circles over and over and over and over and over again. I can't even tell you how many times it repeated itself. To me, it felt like the author had this cool synopsis and then wanted to explore the theme of like families are dysfunctional, which fantastic, great theme. Go ahead and explore that, except he didn't explore that. He just, basically his thesis was families are dysfunctional and didn't do anything with it at all. I read a lot of reviews that said, oh, the series was ruined because the ending was rushed. This manga was canceled for a reason, okay? It wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't doing anything. Even 3 volumes in, I was like, okay, are we going to move on, explore anything, have any interesting discussions? No, it's just plot twist after ridiculous plot twist, except for there's like one big reveal that I predicted as soon as the character was introduced. So when you're relying so heavily on plot twists to keep your reader reading, and they're predictable like that, what are we reading for? I don't know. In the last chapter, and I'm not going to say anything really spoilery, but the main character says that nothing has changed, and that's really the summary for the entire series. Nothing changes. Every time it seems like we're finally learning something, something's finally being revealed, the rug is pulled out from under you, and you're just left back at the beginning where you started, and it seriously happened so many times. If I say how many times it happened, it will feel like an exaggeration, but it happened so many times, and the series is not that long. It's only 6 volumes. I don't understand. It really felt like I was spinning in circles. And maybe if I hadn't read this all in 1 day, and maybe if this was like a weekly read, that's the only way I think I could have enjoyed this, but it was simply pointless. And I'm kind of glad that I only read it in 1 day because I didn't want to waste time on this series either. So yeah, with that, I'm done talking about negative opinions for now. I'm currently reading Rave Master, which is another series that the wheel chose for me. And it's also not that good, but kind of in a fun way, whereas these series were just not good in general. So Rave Master, I'm reading it slower. It's okay. I'm hoping to finish it in August, and then I'll talk about it then. But anyway, let's move on to something positive. Next, I read volumes 2 through 9. I completed the series of Tokyo Tarareba Girls. I briefly talked about this a couple months ago when I read the first volume, but basically this follows 3 women. They're all 33 years old, and recently the Tokyo 2020 Olympics have been announced, and they feel pressure to get married before the Olympics, so they're not living sad single lives while their country is celebrating the Olympics, I guess. For me, the synopsis doesn't matter. What I love about the series is it's so funny. These characters are not likable. In any other series, I would just be hating this, and thinking that these characters are so stupid, they're making terrible decisions, and they are. They are definitely making bad decisions, not only for themselves, but also for all the people around them. Like, they're not great people, but the way that Akiko Higashimura writes them just makes them so lovable. I should not think that a woman who is knowingly being involved with a man who is cheating on his wife, like, she knows it. I should not love that character, but I do. I love all these characters, even the main male character, who I was reading reviews, everybody hates him. I totally understand why. He's not likable, he's very mean, but I still like him for some reason. I don't know why. I just think the series is so fun. I think if you read it as a comedy manga, you'll have a good time. If you try to take it too seriously, I think you'll be disappointed. If you try to read it as a romance manga, I think you're going to be disappointed. It does deal with some like heavier emotions. Like, there's definitely moments of sadness in here and the characters reflecting on their decisions, but that doesn't mean they make the right decision in the end. If you dislike age gaps in fiction, definitely don't read this. If you dislike cheating in fiction, 100% do not read this. I'm pretty sure every single relationship in here involves cheating in some way. I do have criticism for this manga, and it's that about half of these volumes from, I want to say volume 5 on, have these like side stories that are written based on stories that fans have sent in to the author, and then the little what if characters here kind of give them advice. I honestly skipped all of those. I don't care to read those. They were very wordy. And like I said, that is about half of the volume, or a big portion of the volume. So the main story is quite a bit shorter than this 9 volumes would suggest. But I just continue to be so impressed by Akiko Higashimura and her ability to write these extremely flawed characters in such a charming way. I laughed out loud so many times while reading this series and Princess Jellyfish, and she also can do the opposite and make me cry with Blank Canvas. So even though her series are not ones that I would typically pick up, I definitely will read anything that she writes at this point. I did also read the sequel, Tokyo Tarareba Girls Returns, which takes place 3 years after the original series, and that one was good as well. I saw a lot of people disappointed with it and thought it was pointless, but it was funny, and that's all I care about. So I don't think the series is for everyone, definitely, but I had a great time with it. And having said all that, it's probably my least favorite Akiko Higashimura work. I think Blank Canvas is first, and then Princess Jellyfish, and then this one. But again, I had a fantastic time. And lastly, I read volumes 11 through 14 of Delicious and Dungeon. This was the final 4 volumes of the series, and I promise, hopefully, this will be the last time in a while that I talk about this series. I feel like I've talked about it in every video for the last 4 months, but what a fantastic series. I think this series does everything well, and it's all extremely well balanced. You have slice of life elements with the cooking, and I thought that was going to be the main focus of the story. It's not, but anytime you get those moments, they're very charming and they're not boring or distracting. The comedy is so good. The characters are extremely lovable. The action series are high stakes and kind of put you on the edge of your seat. The world building, or dungeon building in this case, is amazing, but we also get politics from outside the dungeon. There's elves who live a lot longer than a lot of the other characters, and that produces conflict not just from the outside but also inside our little group. The magic system is super cool. I love that the dungeon has this hierarchy, this food chain thing going on. And the art, of course, as well, is so good. I love the imagery, especially in volume 13. I don't want to say what it's about, but this theme of hunger turning into desire and the need for power, it's so good. I never expected anything this amazing from this manga. It's supposed to be just a slice of life cooking manga, and it is, but it's also so much more than that. And one other thing I want to say, because I feel like it's very important, is a lot of the time when I'm reading a manga and I get to the end, they have the big climax and then it just very quickly ends. And there's not a lot of resolution section of, the plot diagram. So that's my problem with a lot of manga, but this one, almost this entire volume is resolution, tying up loose ends, and it is so refreshing. So many manga I've read, even if they have a satisfying ending, they tend to wrap up the manga very quickly after the final conflict or climax of the story. Sometimes with a time skip chapter, sometimes not, but it always feels not quite rushed, but just an afterthought, oh yeah, we also have to tie up loose ends and make sure everybody has their happy or not so happy ending. But this one felt like it was actually thought out. The author was allowed to say goodbye to these characters, and we were too. And even though the series is only 14 volumes, which to me is kind of a shorter series, I feel like it definitely leaves a lasting impact. And I felt like I was reading for a lot longer than 14 volumes, which is a positive in this case. And yeah, normally I would try to come up with some kind of criticism for each manga I read, but honestly, I really can't think of any for this series. I just think it's extremely well done, and I'm so glad that I picked it up again. If you didn't know, this was my second time reading this manga, or trying this manga. The first time I only read the first volume, and because it was, at that point, really heavily slice of life, I wasn't completely in love with it, but obviously that's changed, and I don't really make a top 10, top 20 list of my favorite series, but this one is definitely up there, especially for ones I've read this year. Alright, so that was everything I read in July, minus some other volumes that I've talked about already in a reading vlog. For August, as I mentioned, I am planning on hopefully finishing Rave Master if I continue to think it's okay to good. If I continue to enjoy it, I will keep reading it. Either way, I'll let you know my thoughts on it in August. But as for other manga, I need to finish King in Limbo, since this is the final omnibus that came out pretty recently. And then I also wanted to read Given, since the final volume 9 of this series comes out in August, I believe. I actually haven't read any of this, but I have watched the anime, both the series and the movie, and I enjoyed those. So we'll see what I think of this. But yeah, those were just my August reading plans. I thought I would share those in case you wanted to know. If you've read any of the series I talked about in this video, please leave your thoughts on them down below. I'd love to hear from you. But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!